is going on, hobby family? It is your boy K-Dub, and this is K-Dub's High Five, 5 rapid fire questions with your favorite hobby faces. And today I bring in a dude that I have literally met on the floor of the National. He is Twitter, he is Instagram, he is Cards Max. Max, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to talk to the Kyle K-Dub on a lovely Tuesday morning, afternoon, depending on where you're geographically located.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Well, it was my absolute pleasure to be able to meet you in person on the national floor, and I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about your collecting journey. So, how it works: 5 questions, all hobby related. They're coming at you one right after another. Ready to take on the high five?
Hit me with it.
All right, man. First question: at Cards Max is the handle on Twitter and Instagram. Walk us through a little bit who you feel like you are when it comes to the hobby or the social media hobby, kind of more specifically.
Gotcha. So presently I buy, sell, trade sports cards full time, which is great. That stemmed from being either a present or a former collector. I mostly focus on baseball. I love tops, or I guess we're talking about me. I enjoy baseball cards. I love my tweets. I predominantly, as you were saying, I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I'm predominantly on Twitter the
Mhm.
most because I love and enjoy the community aspect of it. I enjoy giving my visceral hot takes and opinions, and it's both very it's phenomenal that Twitter is a medium that harbors that, and Instagram is more about flashy, showing off yourself, while Twitter is more about the community aspect and
Yeah.
letting thought grow and dissect and pander. So I'd like to think I'm known for my sports cards, my loves of sports cards, and my spicy opinions and thoughts and print run calculations of sports cards.
I like that spicy. I like that adjective there. So, you said you got into cards full time. How long you been doing that?
So I graduated college 2 years ago in May 2022. I graduated with a chemistry degree, and my thoughts were to either do a clinical research job or a research associated PhD or master's degree or something like that. But I punted or got distracted, or I punted off the job search and got distracted more and more by cards as I was buying and selling. I got into it while
Mm,
I was in college, and that slowly grew both in the time and energy that I invested into it, as well as it becoming a more sustainable path of income.
mm.
But definitely how I got into the hobby. It's definitely been like a few chapters of my life of like I've had parts where I've gotten super into the hobby, I've gotten parts where I've withdrawn, but I re got into it when I was back in college.
For sure, for sure. And was there a specific player or card that kind of drew you into back into the hobby, or was it just I'm bored, I got nothing to do, looking on eBay?
So I guess I'll try to give the cliff notes of my full history with cards, but of course everyone has their stage when they're into sports cards as a kid, and then it
Mm,
falls off a little bit. And then I had like a middle stage where I got into sports cards again, got into the baseball cards in like middle school, high school. When I was like a kid, I didn't really know the players. I didn't really care about sports
yeah.
really not that much at all. When I was in like middle school and high school, I started really following baseball. Memorabilia is expensive, and I'm a kid. I don't have money, but a pack of baseball cards costs $5 at Rite Aid. So that was my
Okay.
gateway drug in. It's that it's an affordable way to still feel impacted by the game. And then it's like, okay, I'm 16. I can't talk to girls or have anyone find out that I collect baseball cards as I'm old. So that made me withdraw because I thought it wasn't cool anymore. Also, as an aside, like 2016 Topps is one of the ugliest designs ever. So that
Mm,
also made me withdraw. And then to go to the stem of your question, when I was back in college, this was, I guess, the summer of my freshman year in 2019. I'm on like a friend's, not to say, but we all went to the beach for a weekend, I guess a beach
yeah.
weekend summer. And I woke up before everyone else. I'm just sitting on the balcony. I'm like, like I can make my basement a little bit cooler. I'm like, oh, I have a sports card knowledge. I can buy autographs and not get fleeced on them. And I know how to buy an affordable autograph. So I think it was a 2018 Topps Tier 1 Luis Severino autograph.
Okay.
I'm a Yankees fan.
Yeah.
And my thinking with Severino was at that time until he re-signed as a Met, at that time he was by far the longest tenured Yankee
Mm,
since 2015. So again, this was during this rebuild period. But point being, I bought a Luis Severino Tier 1 autograph, veteran autograph, not a rookie, for I think like $20. And that was what I was like, oh, I'll just buy one card. That was what completely spiraled me back in
That's
bu- buying more. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll buy a DD Gregorius autograph for $8. I'm like, oh, I can buy this. I can buy this to share auto for really cheap. And then I started completely being rewrapped in by all the sets and configurations on autographs and variations.
yeah.
And I fully went down the rabbit hole and I have not exited since 2019. I'm not a Gary V baby. I'm not a COVID boom baby, even though I did join at around the same time. It
For
was
sure.
purely organic. But I
Man,
jumped into it.
it's amazing how just kind of that one hit, if you'll call it, but that one card kind of just started the roller coaster of you getting back in the hobby. So, well, let's talk a little bit. Like you mentioned early in your childhood, you were collecting. You know, who would you kind of credit as the people who got you into cards? Who brought you into the sports card world?
So I guess my dad introduced it to me, not necessarily as wanting to get specifically in sports cards, just because I don't know, maybe I'm Italian and baseball just runs through our genes that we all like baseball. But he would give me these Friday surprises, and when I was like 5, 6 years old, and
Okay.
it'd have a bunch. You'd go to the gas station or you'd go to the drugstore or a lottery store, and you'd be able to get like 100 Yankees for $5. So
Mm,
sometimes he throw those at me, but I love my dad. I don't think I can directly credit him for that. So if I'm looking at these three different stages, like I guess my dad or myself, I guess when I was like a kid, just like
mm,
everyone cards as a kid. As an adult, I think I highlighted that it was mostly me who got it back into it. But this middle stage when I'm like 14, 15 years old, this stage was like I am fully into baseball. I am like crushing my middle school fantasy baseball league. I'm having fun with I can buy cards at the drugstore. I got a lot of cards for my birthday that year, but what I think got me really into it was I was old enough to be able to like research cards. It's like when I was 14, 15 years old, I'm like, wow, people do breaks. People buy a whole hobby box for $60. People buy 12 hobby boxes at once and they all get a team and you can get 12 boxes worth of cards just from your favorite team. Like that's a thing. And like at this chapter, I'm like, okay, like maybe I asked like my parents to enter me in a break, but like I had too much pride as a 15-year-old to not want to like, ask for things or want to tell my parents that I'm into baseball cards, which is for little kids. Now it's for hype beasts, but now it's for little kids and adults like us.
yes.
But getting to your credit, it was being able to search eBay. It was really start looking through blowout forms 24/7 as like a 15-year-old. And so two names directly come to mind, even if I guess the two names that come to mind the most, I guess specific. Great. Okay, good. I thought I did something with Zoom. Even though I wasn't even really directly interacting with them at the time, was Cheap on Breaks, who I
Okay.
think is now rebranded as Cheap Fun Cool Collectibles. Yeah, I
Oh
know he
yes,
did a
yes, yep.
yeah. Houdini is great. I don't even personally interact with him, but watching his breaks when I was like 14, 15 years old, seeing him be the admin of Blowout Forums, which I guess is a space that isn't directly connected with Twitter very much, he was in the most endearing way possible the kingpin. He's the guy that
Mhm.
knows all the baseballs. He's always very endearing and friendly. So I'd have to directly credit him. And also, I believe Blowout Forms is most leading or highest poster is Eric those back pages, who
Oh
I'm
yeah,
very
yeah.
grateful to have an adult relationship with him
Yeah,
now.
we were at the national.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Eric's great, and Eric, I think, does a good job of course being more of the older generation of collecting while also still fully immersing himself into modern and Topps Chrome refractors and the goodness of Topps Chrome and Black Flagship and gold refractors. And there's again just even if my relationship with them at the time wasn't direct, just being able to consume their commentary and opinions and well substantiated takes, even if they're sometimes silly at times, specifically to Eric, that undeniably had a direct influence to me when I was in this, neophyte early high school age. And like, I wish I could say this more articulately, but like, I'm reading about all the grading companies, reading about Beck and reading about PSA and hearing about how big Chris Bryant is. It's like I'd go to like my LCS and I'd open like 2 or 3 packs of Bowman just to try to chase Chris Bryant,
Mm.
and it stymied the education element of the hobby. When I'm 14, 15 years old, I'm not buying a single card and I'm really just trying to consume as much as
Yes.
possible. And that is directly responsible for me doing it as an adult, to where I'm like, oh, I know everything already. I've spent way too many hours studying cards and enjoying cards to get into it. So Eric and Cheap Fun Collectibles, those would be my two influences.
Nice. I love it. I love it, man. Two shout out those two dudes. Two great dudes, two great falls as well. Question number 3 for you, man. You said you were a collector, a Yankees collector to begin with. When you think about like the Grail card for you or the Grail item for you in your collection, what is that and why?
So I tackled the question of who to PC when I was in that, when I got into it as an adult. I'm like, okay, everyone has their favorite player.
Hmm.
I'm a Yankees fan. Even that stage, like Judge stuff was still super expensive.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I like Glaber. He's in the strong 2018 rookie class. I'm going to go Glaber Torres.
Okay.
And for the longest time, I was targeting Glaber Torres Sapphire rookie card. There's
Okay.
250 made. They weren't in a complete set, but they're very low print. At that time, they're like $800. And this is at the time when, like, in between college semesters, I was working Uber Eats as a driver, predominantly just to fund like $20 PSA 10 Glaber Torres slabs of like base cards,
Yes.
most thing in the world. But this was a card that would always, I was kind of always had in the back of my head that I would want,
Hmm.
but not. I'm like, $800 for a baseball card is insane. I'm not doing that. Um, I think it was 2021. Glaber's prices precipitously started dropping more and more. I had 2 boxes of 2021 Bowman Sapphire,
Okay.
and I sold them. And the person I sold them to on Twitter pulled an Austin Martin Sapphire auto at a 10, which was like a huge card,
Yeah.
$5,000 to $10,000 card. And he's like, hey, like, is there any way you can pay it forward? And I'm like, no, you really don't have to. It's fine. It's like, no, like, who do you PC? Like, I'm going to bless you up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I PC Glaber Tours. I'm like, okay, cool. This is when the card dropped to like $100. I was like,
Yeah.
cool. I have like this Glaber Torres Sapphire card. It's like, I haven't looked at it, whatever, since PSA was shut down. Like, you can have it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like,
Right.
I'll take it. So I'm very appreciative of it. I know it's a Twitter person who doesn't really use Twitter as much anymore, but I know I can dig for the handle if I really try. I tried digging for the handle before this, but I couldn't find it.
Hmm.
And it's not someone I directly interact with much
Yeah.
anymore.
How cool is that?
They gifted me, and I granted he had a $5,000-$10,000 card, but I really appreciate he gave me the $100 Libertor Sapphire. He was true to his word in that the card was clean. I sent it to PSA once they reopened, and a PSA 10,
Let's go.
and still part of my collection and entrenched in my
Love it.
collection today.
How cool is
But I love the story of it.
the story is the best. Yeah.
But one of my buddies, Jason Dardick, he has a huge, or had a huge Nolan Arenado collection and had a huge Sabrina Ionescu collection. And he's given me the metaphor that he's already kind of climbed the mountain on those players. So now it's just a constant growth of rediscovery. And
Mm.
for me, it's like I've already felt like I climbed the Glaber Torres mountain getting that card when I was so out of reach, even though his prices have dropped. And now his super high end is just in the hands of like really wealthy Yankees collectors, and it's like it's
Sure.
just not worth the money or the chase to me
Mm.
as much. And I have some Glaber Torres friends. Whenever I see rare Glaber, I forward it straight to them.
Yeah.
But as for like a modern Grail, or I guess like even just a present Grail, that I don't have yet, I'd lean either towards a really good look, spanking good looking T206 Ty Cobb red portrait.
Yes.
At that card completely got me into pre-war vintage,
Mm.
and I don't pretend to be like a mastermind of it,
Yeah.
but I love that the different colored backs are like the OG parallels. You have your,
Yes. 100%.
it's
I
like,
didn't know that. I didn't know that as well. And I just kind of have recently learned about that.
that's my favorite part of it. And I like that. I'm not going to pretend to be a huge baseball history nut, but I like that it's card history more than I like that it's baseball history. And that being almost the birth of baseball cards, or the very least like widespread baseball cards.
Mhm.
I've owned a few of them, and not like a copy where I really want to keep for myself.
Yeah.
Either T206 Ty Cobb red portrait or a 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle.
For sure.
I
Of
don't
course.
know
Yes.
how junky of a condition I
Yeah.
can handle, or like how much money I'm ready to just park into that and just not look at again.
Mm.
But as in terms of cards I don't have, those would probably be my top two.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Two absolute pillars when it comes to baseball
Yeah.
cards.
but the chase never ends. That's
Yeah,
for sure. It's all about trying to find a new mountain to climb, and it
I
has to
like
be a
that.
good like scarcity to unattainability ratio. Because like if the card's just expensive. Like I'm not making any light of like Fleer Michael Jordan rookies, but
Mm,
there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of them, and like
yeah,
that's just not like a unique enough twist
gotcha.
to make it fun to fun to have it be unique.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, man. Well, you talked about get $5 packs when you were getting into collecting. You talked
Yeah.
about 2016 being the product that you don't want to see. But if you had to pick any hobby box or box over the course of sports card history, but I'm guessing you're going to say baseball history, what box would you rip and why?
Um, for nostalgia, probably 2014 tops because the all white borders, the boring design, that's what got me all into it. But
Yeah.
in terms of like, if money's not an object or whatever, give me like boatloads of cases of like 2018 tops update.
Okay.
Easily, not even because of Glaber, but easily one of the best chases. You have Otani, you have Soto,
Yeah.
Glaber still. At the time, Otani, or I guess like in 2019, like Otani was like the fourth biggest name.
Yeah. Crazy to think,
You had
right?
Acuna, you had Soto, you had Glaber outdoing Otani for a
Hmm.
hot sack.
Yeah.
And then Otani recovered from his injuries and then went back to full form. The rest is history. Um, I was actually able to rip 2018 update back in 2019, so I still
Yeah.
have that a little bit of attachment to it.
For
I
sure.
pack pulled a Shohei Otani rookie debut black
Oh
out of
wow.
6 at the time. Like I was trying to like sell that for like $200 so I could like buy cool Kleber. Couldn't give it away for 200. I
Mm,
eventually got $400 for it when he started heating up, and now it's
mm.
like a $2,000 card.
Yep.
But probably one of my coolest pack pulled hits that I've had, and I would keep ripping it in infinitum, trying to chase. I don't think the platinum Soto has been hit. The platinum Acuna has not.
Gotcha.
And I think that'd be very fun to continuously rip.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I had the pleasure of seeing you on the national floor, meeting you, and then actually seeing you in action on the national floor, negotiating far more than the original prices that you were saying in your collecting. Um, as you think about card shows and doing card shows, what's your approach? Like I've been to one card show, the national, completely overwhelmed, had no clue what I was doing. But for you, being a little bit of a veteran in the card show world, like how do you approach buying? How do you approach selling? What does that look like in your mind?
So there's definitely a lot of different verticals to attack. I grade a bunch of cards and I always try to find stuff that's gradable or stuff that I think was maybe undergraded and things that, find ways that I can add in a non-card altering way, of course, find ways that I can add value to a card by, maybe submitting the PSA 9 and grading it a back, sorry, submitting a PSA 9 and making it a back at 9.5 and trying to find those little vantage points that I can take advantage of is helpful to me. But in terms of how I go to a lot of shows. I think I'm averaging like maybe like 2 to 3 shows a month, and I'm traveling a ton. I'm going to Burbank on Thursday. So I guess in like 36 hours, I'll be on a plane, give or take. Part of it is just buying at a margin, and it's a small margin, but trying to find the card that consistently, sells for $100 and try to pay 80, $85 and just sell it for $90. And, making that small little churn, it adds up a lot when you do 10, 20, 30, 40 cards of it. So there's the cards that have like more crystalline value, and then there's cards that have the more ambiguous value. And I don't know if a CJ Stroud card, this is, I guess, one of my favorite examples. I had a CJ Stroud rookie tie dye XRC, so not a rookie, I guess. 2022 select CJ Stroud XRC out of 25 tie dye. I own one right now, but I bought one back in January for $3,000, and I bought it trying to grade it. And I'm thinking, okay, cool. I'm gonna try and get it to 10. It took through 2 or 3 tries, but I think it was in May it became a PSA 10. And these cards are rare, like relatively rare. Like the XRCs take a while. The redemptions from the previous
Yeah.
years select, and they aren't fulfilled immediately. And there's not too many sales of them, especially at that time. So when I had this PSA 10 CJ Stroud tie dye in May, there hadn't been a sale of it since January in a full 5 months, 4 or 5 months. And I think the sales at the time were $2,500 to $3,000. And the amount of times people told me, hey, like, I'll give you 4,000 or I'll give you 4,500. I couldn't even get a $5,000 offer on it when it was like double ish a PSA 10 to a PSA 9. But more importantly, CJ Stroud stuff, very climbing the mountain,
Yeah.
spiking, extremely changed dramatically in value. And I ended up auctioning that card, and I think it did 8,500 at auction. And I was asking 55 in person, and I
Yeah.
wasn't even get anything starting with a 5. So my point isn't to, I mean, it was a great win, but the point is to celebrate the win. The point is, even though that wasn't a card I bought specifically to enjoy the volatility of, there are cards with more ambiguous values because the player has went up,
Mhm.
and trying to target those, and similarly not get burned when a player is down.
Sure.
That's another way to attack it, and that's like common in national treasures, RPAs,
Mm.
um, the big quarterbacks during the offseason. I don't know, bigger basketball plays sometimes. Like, I guess to give another example, like I remember at the Burbank show in August last year, it was during the FIBA basketball tournament. And I think Anthony Edwards had a good game. And just like in a finger snap, the entire room was buying Anthony Edwards at full market value, trying to
Mm.
get a little bit of juice above market value just because people were able to recognize his market was
Yeah.
spiking. I can give a few more examples of that with players, but I guess it's always fun to see in real time, which isn't always grateful to have that case, but sometimes in real time you can see a player's market spike, and being able to attack that can be fruitful. And I guess, yeah, so either buying cards with crystalline values that make sense, or that you can buy on a margin, whether that's value boxing, buying a whole value box, which I like to do sometimes, or just doing it with like on a very small margin, buying cards that are more subjective in value and don't sell as often.
Mm.
And you can try to sell to the player who really is bullish on that player rather than someone who's just sticking straight to the market. And then the buying to try to find the grading point discrepancy and trying to make a PSA 9, a PSA 9.5, or a PSA 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Those are, I guess, the three biggest ways that I attack things when I'm on the road.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the thing that I appreciated most about watching you in action,
Yeah.
negotiate, was you walked away from the deal. And I think a lot of times, we see on, social media, deals being made, deals being done, and not every deal is the right deal. And I watched you interact. I watched you have a great conversation with a guy. It wasn't negative. It wasn't hostile, but it just didn't fit. And you walked away without the card, and that was okay for you.
Yeah, and I absolutely try to just like emphasize, I'm like, hey, like, if you can't reach the number, no hard feelings. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe this is controversial. I try to give my best number from the get-go, just so that like I can come out strong. And like, it's like, no, I didn't, like, I came up $20 once. No, I know you can come up $20 again. It's like, no, like this is the number, deal or
Sure.
no deal. And it's like, you can't, no hard feelings. Like, I want you to get the most money for your card. And then if that's not me, perfectly fine. Um, I guess the point that I haven't highlighted is that especially when I'm traveling a lot, or whether it's just local people, or like I'm from Long Island, New York, and I, did card shows there. And then I went to college in North Carolina, and I did some card shows there. And now I'm based in Florida, and I do card shows here as well. And as well as traveling a bunch, and I see all the people that I travel. It's very purposeful knowing a lot of people. Obviously, the friendship and the camaraderie and the banter comes first. But even when in the context of doing deals, I know I don't do a bunch of soccer, but I do some Erling Haaland and Lamine Yamal cards sometimes. I have some soccer friends that I know that they can get more on the soccer card because they have a larger soccer audience, or they know more soccer collectors. And I can give them a price where I still make money, where they make money,
Yeah.
and the collector's happy. And it's just, especially with the higher end, there's a lot more people that have specific niches. I mean, if I had to pinpoint my niche, it's probably modern baseball, or mid to higher end modern baseball, even if that market isn't scorching higher or not. I know some people that can use 90s basketball that I can't use it as much. So it's that already knowing them and already doing, not even necessarily always doing deals with them, but just saying, hey, how are you? Oh, you moved that big McDavid. Like, how do you do on that? And just, not even for the relationship standpoint, but just because it's fun and it's enjoyable to talk to people. that has the monetary, the non-monetary payoff is more important, but sometimes it has the monetary payoff as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the community of the hobby, my friend. So
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
cool, man. All right.
That
Well, we cleared the list, my friend. You did it. I got a high five, man. Throw it up. High five.
yeah.
There we go. Hey, follow Max on Twitter and Instagram at CardsMax. I'll make sure to link all of that in the description of the video. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter or X at Mr. K-Dub. Shout out to our high five endorsers, LJ's Card Shop and Midwest Box Breaks. Max, it was a pleasure to meet you in person and even more of a pleasure to be able to chat a little bit more about your collecting. So thanks so much for doing this.
I can't wait till you drag yourself out to more card shows. I know the schedule is a bit unforgiving for you, but
Yes.
I'm ready to see you fully immersed and on the road.
I'm taking this show on the road. The high five on the road. Let's go. So, well, hey, man, thanks again for doing this. I appreciate you and I appreciate what you do on Twitter and X, as well as Instagram.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. It was a fun high five.
All right, man. Y'all take care. We'll catch you guys next time on the next high five.